if this is who Jesus really is, I want no part of it.
Yeah.
But I did find God. But I found him at the bottom of the pit.
Yeah.
And it was so dark when I looked up, I couldn't. All I saw was dirt.
Have you ever found yourself thinking, if I love Jesus, why do I still react like this? Why do I shut down? Why do I get angry or get defensive? Why do I go numb, especially with the people I love the most? Today's episode is for the man who genuinely wants to love his wife, wants to love his family well, but there's something running underneath the surface that keeps hijacking him. If that's you, that's me too. I just want you to know. Our guest today, Shelli Norvell, is a licensed marriage and family therapist who helps people understand how unhealed pain quietly shapes their relationships, their discernment, and even the way they see God. Shelli, welcome to the Stand Up Dude podcast.
Thank you.
We're so excited. There should be like air horns going off.
That's better.
That's the worst out-of-tune air horn. Okay, Shelli, we're going to get past the broken air horn sounds. We should tell people how we met. Can we tell people how we met?
Yes, I love the story.
It's a fun story.
It is fun.
I was flying back from an event in, I think it was Texas. Was it Texas? Dallas. And I got in my seat in the very back of the plane. I flew an airline I don't normally fly. So I was in the very back of the plane, right by the bathroom, which is good for bathroom reasons.
Yeah, bathroom reasons.
Or not so
not
good.
sleeping or sitting reasons.
Or not so good. And there you were on the other side of the aisle, other side of the plane. And I'm going to let you kind of tell the story from there.
I have called Pedro my angel.
I'm thankful for
ever
that.
since then.
I've been called a lot of things.
He was, I guess, flying back from a conference.
Yeah.
I was at a conference.
Yep.
My conference was the American Academy of Christian Counselors. And I fly this airline all the time. But I hate the back of the plane. I always want the front. I will pay extra sometimes
Just to get
be
up closer.
at the front of the plane.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we'll skip that story. Sometimes I'll fake PTSD just to.
That's
way.
gangster.
Yes,
We're not skipping that. Let's go.
Sometimes I'll go, I have PTSD from flying, and they will give me a front row seat.
Oh, I know.
So anyway, so I did not care. I was going through a heartbreak at the time, and I knew that I was flying back to Nashville to a breakup that was impending. And I had gone through this Christian conference. I had done a 12-hour intensive with one of my favorite people, John Townsend, and I had to keep it together all weekend long. And so I knew that I didn't care that I was flying back. I just thought, I'm going to get to the very back of the plane. I'm not going to check in. I'm going to put my hoodie up. I'm going to finally let myself feel, because I've been having to be on.
Yeah.
And so I got in the back. I walked all the way to the back, sat down. I didn't know who was sitting near me. And I put my sad song playlist in.
Yeah.
And
So Enneagram 4 of you.
Like
so Enneagram 4.
That's what I do.
And I just tried to make myself invisible. I kind of shrunk in, and I just let the tears flow. And the tears were flowing. And all of a sudden I get this tap, 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 tap on my shoulder.
way.
And I look over, and it's you.
Yep.
And Pedro had given me this note on the phone.
Yep.
And I actually really love the other side of the story.
I'll
You
tell
have
it.
to tell it.
We'll play tennis.
So yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm sitting in a seat I don't want to be in on an airline I don't normally fly and also don't want to be in. And I get to the back of the plane and I feel the Lord, true story, tell me, I have something you need to tell her. And I was like, nope, not doing that. Not doing that, God. Not today, Junior. And so I keep saying no. I keep saying the third time he's like, if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. You should do it. And I was like, what? I don't even know what that means. Am I just being spiritual? I came back from a conference. I was on stage. I'm like, I'm probably just like high off the conference thing. You know, I'm buzzing. And so I finally obeyed. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but I just basically let her know that God saw her sadness. And it was weird because I put it in my phone and I just hand her the phone. I just tap her and hand her. She didn't even look at me. She was like, what are you handing me your phone for? And she reads it. And that was kind of how it kind of all unfolded from there. And
it was perfect. I don't even remember what you said. I'd love to somehow find that message.
I think I have it still on my phone, which is crazy.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
But I just remember it was exactly what I needed to hear. And I knew it was like God loving me and my details.
Yes.
And I just kind of gave you back your phone.
Yep.
I said, thank you. I finished up my crying. And then I was like, let me type them back. So we became pen pals on the airplane. And I typed him back, thank you. Like, this is happening in my life. I appreciate, this and that. And so then like once we finally got up in the air, we took our headphones out or our AirPods out and we just started chatting, and it come to find out we knew a lot of the same people. Tons. Some of the therapists that he's close to, I shared an office suite with, and I refer people to him all the time. And it was just this really cool conversation. And we walked out, we're in the back of the plane. So of course we have to, we're walking out together, and it was just like, oh my gosh, my angel. Like
I told you, I've been called a lot of names in my life. So I'm going to take that one because I don't get called angel very much.
Well,
are there Puerto Rican angels?
You were a servant. God said do, and you did, and that's
I was
an
scared.
angel.
I think about all the
you
times.
asked me for my card, and I gave you my card, and I was like, oh, I'll never hear from him again. And
I did. So, I followed up. It was some time later because it took me a little while, but then we started connecting on all things therapy and Jesus and God and then now here we are coaching and all of that, and it has been a great friend. So I'm so glad you're here.
Me too.
I'm so glad we get to hang and do this.
Yeah, very, very much so.
It's going to be amazing. So I've gotten to hear your story many times, but for the men watching, they don't usually see a woman come on the podcast.
Yeah,
and
like this.
This is awesome. It's new and it's different. So can you just like short story, like who are you? What has your story been like? And maybe more specifically, who were you before you started connecting to the unhealed pain in your story? We all got unhealed pain in our stories. Yeah. Who are you
in layers, right?
Before all of that? And how did you see it connect to your faith? And how was it affecting your relationships? Unhealed pain is something all the men watching probably carry too.
I think that's such a complex question.
Yeah.
And so I think that will unfold as we talk. But I think who I was before I really got honest with, I am a hot mess. I am going to destroy everyone in my path, including myself, if I don't figure this out. And so who I was at the precipice of that was a very broken, very wounded woman who, and I think the word that comes to mind is offended. So offended. I kind of cringe at how offended I used to be on everything. Like I had this curl, like you could just look at me and feel my offended spirit. And I had gone to a training, and some people had poured into my life, and it really came. It's called The Encounter, by the way. I'm going to plug it. Yeah. But I was this woman who was a victim. The world was against me. Everyone had hurt me. Poor me. Nobody loves me. I'm going to go home and eat worms. And I am just, I didn't ever hate God, but I didn't want any part of the God of my childhood. I don't know if that resonates with anybody. There's
a lot of people that resonates with.
If this is who Jesus really is, I want no part of it.
Yeah.
And but I also prayed all the time, Lord, keep me on a short leash. Like I did not want to turn my back on him, but I didn't believe that everything that I had been taught and the ways that I had been treated and in the church and like there was a lot of church hurts there too from my story, that I just was like, if this is who God is, I don't want any part of it. So I'm gonna go figure out who God is. And that's what I did. I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. And I kind of went through, and this is an overused word, a deconstruction of my faith. But I did find God, but I found him at the bottom of the pit. And it was so dark when I looked up, all I saw was dirt. I mean, I was in a pit, offended spirit, victim mentality. Nobody likes me. Nobody wants me. What am I going to do with my life? And then I kind of, in 2012, I came to this precipice in my life. I remember being in a relationship with a man who is not good for me. And that's putting it nicely. And I'll probably share more about that as we go. But I remember being at this precipice of, I have got to figure out how to change my life. And this man is not a part of it. And praying. And I remember asking the Lord, God, I need help. I remember where I was standing as clear as day. And I said, I don't know if you even hear me. Like I didn't even know if God loved me in my details or heard me anymore. Like, I don't know if you hear me, but I know that this isn't good for me. And I know that the where I'm going in life is not your best for me. I know that much, but I don't know how to get out of this.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know how. Will you help me, please? If you think the way I think about this, you're going to have to do something. It's basically what I said to him. You're going to have to do it because I can't.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. He did it.
Wow. So when you described how low you were and you said you looked up and saw only dirt, it's pretty visual right there. So how did this unhealed pain basically derail you? It sounds like you got derailed enough to be as low looking up and all you see was dirt. So, you've said that, we said a little earlier as well, that the unhealed pain can derail someone who genuinely loves Jesus. True fact. Big time for me. Someone with real faith, real desire to do right. Again, I'm tracking with your story very much so. How did that play out practically in your life? What were the warning signs that you maybe ignored or maybe even over spiritualized?
You're asking me about the derailment.
Yes, let's start with that.
Well, I'm going to start before that.
Okay.
If that's okay.
I love that.
Because in my work with women and in my work with myself and all that I've done to get me to where I am today, I feel like before the derailment comes the distortion, the cognitive distortion, the negative belief of self. And that comes from the trauma.
Wow.
Okay. So if it's okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Following you.
And this is not just my story.
Maybe that are just tuning in, or let's say, tell us again where you're coming from. This is not just Shelley's experience in life, and let me share you what's happened. But you have that. Praise God, you're here. We want to hear that. You also are trained in.
I'm a trauma-informed therapist.
So there we go. So guys. This is going to be a woman opening her heart, telling you how to understand women, try to understand your relationship with women, how maybe it's been derailed, how maybe it's, we were talking when we first started, like when we all know women have a little bit of different combinations than us, and we're not ever sure quite how to work with this. And so this is your opportunity. Shelley's going to just not only give you life experience, but she's a professional at this. So
who's worked with hundreds of people.
Hundreds of people. Open your mind and heart, because we're about to learn something here.
Well said, buddy. Well said. All right.
Yeah.
We're tracking.
And so it starts with across the board, and I think you guys will be able to relate to this, the negative belief that we hold of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because of unprocessed, unhealed wounds. So, and I'm gonna give you guys a story here.
Okay.
When I say unprocessed or unhealed wounds, I mean stuck things in your nervous system that have happened that you weren't able to get out. Okay. Example, Tim, Pedro, you are best friends. You've been best friends since, let's say, 10 years old. You were next door neighbors. This is an example I give my clients all the time. You were next door neighbors, best buddies, grew up, did everything together, great families, and a trauma happens. The trauma is a tornado has just blown through your neighborhood and leveled your homes. Everybody's okay. Nobody's died, but that's pretty traumatic, right?
Pretty traumatic.
Okay. So Pedro, you grow up and you're great. You're fine. Life is good. There's zero anxiety in your life. You grow up and you have a really, really strong fear, not only of storms,
wind,
tornado,
rain.
wind, but even anxiety has manifested itself in other ways with you.
Oh yeah.
Okay. How is that? How is that you're great, you're not?
Same experience.
It's called in therapy world, we call it equipotentiality.
Wow.
Same experience happens, but different outcomes.
Wow.
Okay. Here's what happened. Hypothetically, you had a family system that allowed you to talk about it. get it out. I'm scared.
Process it.
This was terrifying. Maybe you got into counseling. Maybe they just were with you in the fear. I'm with you. We got this together. We're going to work through it. But you were able to, and we were given the gift of being able to talk it out, process that trauma out of you.
Wow.
You were in a family system that they were like, boys don't cry, tough it up. The logic of this is that there's never going to be another tornado in your lifetime come through. Like you're trying to appeal to a child's logic. And children's little logic prefrontal cortexes aren't fully developed. You cannot touch them in that way. They have to be with and seen and understood and regulated. But if you had a family or a family system that didn't allow you to regulate or self-regulate or teach you how to do that, hence you have stuck trauma. It's stuck inside of you. You didn't get to process it out. So that being said, in my childhood, I had a lot of stuck trauma. A lot. I had trauma from, I was sexually abused at a very young age by a family member, my uncle. And it went on for years and years and years. And I guess the gift in that is that I disassociated and forgot about it every single time. And so it was someone that in my loneliness as a child, he was not much older than me, old enough for accountability. He kind of was my playmate. Like this was someone who, if I did this for him, he would do this with me. And there was that trade-off. And so I worked through all of that even shame of like, I did this myself. But in that disassociation of it and the forgetting, I went back to it for years. I mean, this happened over years. And I still don't remember everything, but I remember the first time. Yeah. And I was 5. Jeez. I remember around the last time. And this happened over a period of 5 to 7 years-ish. And again, forgot. And one day when I remembered, I was 16 and it just kind of all came flooding to me. Wow. So in that, first, sexual abuse is bad. Yeah. You know, it brings with it a whole set of self-esteem. What am I good for only one thing? Like all kinds of different things. And it's unique and complex. But the other thing is that when I went to tell my mother, it was a hush, 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 hush. Her devastation, obviously, I would be devastated too, of like, this happened and I was supposed to protect you. And I'm sure that there was a lot of guilt and shame about that. But there was no safety in being able to process it. Only told, you better not tell your dad. Your dad will kill him. I was like, well, maybe I want my dad to kill him kind of thing. But, you know, and so there's this heaviness of like, I can't even talk about it. Yeah. And so then enter the spiritual abuse component of this at 16 years old. And I mean, I was always always in church, loved the Lord, youth group, everything. My mom sends me to our pastor of our church, old guy who has a counseling degree. And she's like, well, you can talk to him. I won't say his name. And that's awkward for a 16-year-old girl, you know, I can't really talk to my mom about it. I can't tell my dad. Who's here to protect me and keep me safe. Yeah. And I got to keep it quiet. And so I went through this whole thing with this pastor and it's humiliating. It's embarrassing. And I'm like, okay, well, he's going to tell me something good, you know? And he, clear as day, I remember it. I've written a book and it's in the book. It's laid out in that way more than I'm telling you now. But in all of that, I'm like, okay, so now what? And he says, well, Shelley, men have died for saying too much. Like he quotes some scripture. And I'm like, I still to this day can't really understand why he would have told me that other than like, don't tell your dad or don't go around talking about it. Just come to me. But what my 16-year-old brain and trauma remembers is, I'm going to die if I talk about this and God's going to strike me down because he said it in the Bible. Oh, men as in mankind. Yeah, mankind have died for saying too much. So you're gonna die. Yeah. And so I am like, oh my gosh, now I have to hold this secret, you know, in this silence. And as a result of that, just the like not being able to go out and seek help because God's going to get me. if I do.
Bummer.
And so you can imagine the cognitive distortions that come from that. I'm not safe. I can't talk about things. You know, later a therapist so graciously told me, well, you're only as sick as your secrets.
Wow.
You know, you got to name it and tame it. And so that formed this, like, I have to be quiet. My voice doesn't matter. And that confirmation bias of that is, and for people listening, confirmation bias is really just when we start telling ourselves a story about ourselves, like I'm not good enough, I'm not safe. And then more things our brain looks for things to make that true.
Right.
More things start happening in your life and you get that, see, your voice doesn't matter. See? And so when I learned that my voice doesn't matter and I had more and more reinforced through other parts of my story that we'd be here forever if I told, that along with never feeling quite like I belonged. Nobody really wants me. And a part of my story is that I found out at 27 years old that I was adopted by my father.
27.
Yeah. So my mom had me, but my mom also was going to give me up for adoption and had the family picked out, and there was no whoever my biological father is, I don't know who he is. He didn't know who I was. And so there was just, well, we're going to put her up for adoption. And God had a different plan. I was 2 months early. I was 2 pounds, 12 ounces, fighting for my life in an incubator. And so, but you know, if you go back into like in grad school, when I learned about a mother-daughter connection, and 2 months early, fighting for my life in an incubator, this all came up in EMDR.
Of course.
My mom had given me up, but the family that was going to take me couldn't take me till I was discharged. So my first 8 weeks of life, no
Just
mommy,
in a plastic
no
bubble.
Connection, nothing.
People with gloves touching you.
Yeah. Well, so it turns out my mom decided to keep me the day I was discharged and took me back home. But in all of that, I always innately knew and felt in my nervous system, but I couldn't give language to it. I'm different. Something's wrong with me. Yeah. There wasn't that mother-daughter connection that I really longed for. And so from that, you know, every child, and especially every oldest child, thinks everybody loves the younger child more.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get that, or if you've ever received that. My daughter to this day swears we all love Trip better. Trip's the favorite, you know. And I just think we make all our mistakes on our oldest. And so there's a ton of grace there for my family. But I also know that now I can give language to that. Like I never felt wanted starting at birth.
Wow.
And the secrecy of even that, nobody knew about me.
Right.
And so coming through childhood and everything that comes from that, my two biggest lies, I'm not wanted. I don't belong.
Yeah.
And my voice doesn't matter.
Yes.
You just go through life believing that, and then more circumstances line up that show you that. And so I chose a man to marry, and he chose me, and we just entered into this marriage broken. I had my wounds, and I like to call myself a recovered borderline, by the way. You know what a borderline personality is?
Fill in the blank.
Yes. Borderline personality disorder is rooted in abandonment.
Yeah.
And it's, I like bipolar too. Like I'm not bipolar, but it's like you can have an extreme high or an extreme low, and you're always worried about how somebody thinks of you. And everything is laced in fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
And there's always a lot of chaos and always a lot of drama. So that kind of followed me. As much as I tried not to be that way, I had zero tools. So when I get married, zero tools. All I know is, by the way, I'm 27. I've just gotten engaged. I've just learned I'm adopted. And my mom and dad decide to split up.
Wow.
A month after I got engaged. And so I'm thinking about all of the chaos that was surrounding me, and I'm getting married. I'm getting out of here. I'm blowing this popsicle stand. I'm moving to Texas. We moved to Houston because he was in school in Houston. And so I just moved right on out there after marriage, and we're all alone. We're all isolated. And here is this very wounded, broken girl with all these wounds that I'm just running from.
Yeah.
And he had his stuff too, because that happens, right?
Yeah.
And our wounds just bumped up against each other. I married a very strong, very intelligent, smart man. And in his personality, it was very strong. And then I was a little bit more meek. And the church told me I had to be like good Christian, submissive housewife, make him happy. And that's true. We want to do that. But so we were set up.
Yeah.
To we didn't have the resources that there were no podcasts. There were no it wasn't really a cool thing for men, I don't think, to really learn how to be a good husbands, men, and there certainly wasn't that for me as well. And so it was a setup, and so that's kind of what got me to the end of myself, where I'm in this.
That was the bottom.
Well, it's not the bottom.
Okay. Well, what was the bottom?
My bottom
don't worry
was,
about the timeline. I mean, I think
it was, so I made my marriage. We survived the marriage for 14 years.
Okay.
And I got to a place where I just couldn't do it anymore. And I asked for the divorce. I'm active in church. I work with the kids. He works with the youth. I'm a welcome person. I mean, I am leading women's Bible studies. I'm doing all of these things. I've got all the gold stickers on God's sticker chart on his refrigerator with my name on it. Gold, 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 gold. I was doing everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And dying inside?
Yes. Suffering.
What were you
misery.
dying inside about? What was
I was
going on?
so lonely.
Okay.
I was so lonely. And I just had all of my own internal chaos. I had wounds from childhood that weren't resolved yet. I had everything that I had not resolved was coming back to life because of my children's ages. And the fear and the codependency of like, I have to be the best mom ever. I have to show up for my kids in ways I wished they had showed up for me.
You don't want to miss it.
And so it was just everything for me, I guess, was rooted in fear.
Yes.
Not love. I have to get everything just right because God's going to get me.
Yeah.
Because men have died for saying too much. God's going to get you. And so I kept it all in. I mean, my husband and I taught Sunday school together at our church.
Yeah.
I had women who I believe probably looked up to me. And then I say, I want a divorce. I can't do this anymore. I'm dying inside. I felt like I was going to die inside.
I bet.
Because I was that unhappy and we just couldn't figure it out. And then sometimes I think, like, had I gone to this training or had I done this or had I found the right counselor, maybe would we still be married? We'll never know. Like, but in that process of asking for the divorce, I was led into a affair. And in the affair, it wasn't just an affair, and the hurt that I caused my children. I mean, I look back and I'm like, man, I really just, if I'm going to sin, I'm going to sin good. I had it. I was done with God. I was like, I don't even know who you are. You have not been here for me in any of this. And so I entered into this affair, kind of, I had this moment where I could envision Joseph running from Potiphar's wife. I knew it was coming and I did not run. I wasn't strong enough to run because this person enticed me. It was seductive and it was sneaky, and he listened and he heard me and he connected with me in ways I never felt connected to my spouse. And it was just, that was the sneakiness and the slyness of it that I just went into it. But the thing I never ever imagined that I would do was he was still married. And he was married to a friend.
Yeah.
And
all the things
it was the betrayal and the, like, I've forgiven myself of it. Mostly, sometimes I think it still wants to come up, but it was this like dance, and he was really toxic. He I help a lot of women through relationships from toxic men or they're toxic themselves, but I kind of specialize in narcissism and emotional abuse. Don't let that scare any of the men out here. I'm not.
Yeah.
But it's this, I think the heart behind that is because I endured it and went through it with this man. In the ups and downs of that relationship and me trying to leave and going back and all of that and what happens in our brain and our nervous system, it gets worse. I came to a place where I thought my only option was to kill myself. Nobody wants me. There it is again.
Yep.
My voice doesn't matter. Nobody wants me.
Yep.
And so I overdosed. So the crazy part of this story in that is that I sent out my little text to a couple of people, goodbye, whatever, the cry for help essentially before I took all the pills. And the first person on the scene before the ambulance was my ex-husband.
Wow.
Taking me to the hospital. And the guy, this man said, go ahead and do it. Like it was just the whole craziness of it all. And so
what man? The man
that I was in the affair with.
Wow.
And so it was just that kind of a dynamic and toxicity of it and the addiction. And that's for another podcast of why women go back. But I spent a week in Rolling Hills Hospital in the psychiatric ward. And that was when I was like, I got to figure this out kind of a thing. And so I got out, ended up still divorcing and still allowing this man back into my life. It was the craziest thing. And so that brings me to like a year later after the divorce, this place where I'm standing in my bathroom and I'm like, God, I can't believe I'm here. And I had already grown away from him in my like rebellion of like, do you even hear me? Are you even, I don't know if you're here. I don't know if you hear me, but I think you love me and I think you're good.
Yep.
If you hear me, you got to do this. I can't do it.
Yep.
And it was in that moment, he literally stepped in the most unexpected of ways.
Yeah.
And showed me, I got you.
What's so crazy, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I just want to say that genuinely.
I know that was a lot, wasn't it?
Okay.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
No, it's good.
No, I wasn't expecting what part.
Oh, all of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I knew there was
I'm thankful for it.
Deep story here. So
the thing that's important, I think, as I listen, I hear there's that scripture where it says the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. And as I listen to your story, I see the progression of what was stolen, what started to be killed off in you, the life that was inside of you, and eventually trying to get you completely destroyed. And sometimes we hear scriptures like that and they sort of become passive. They become metaphoric almost, or like poetry, steal, kills, and destroys. And it's like, no, it actually is talking about your soul, the very life resource inside of you that is the Holy Spirit. And so I'm thankful you shared all that because you see that progression, and it's a real progression. It's not just like, poetry. It's real. It's dark. It's heavy. It's honest. You said something super early on. I didn't want to interrupt you, so I let you just keep rolling. But super early on, you said, I finally had to get to a place where I gotten to the end of myself. And then you said, I had to be honest. Like those words are ringing in my head and in my heart as I listen. There's a lot of men probably on like me for a very long time, for the majority of my life. I didn't want to be honest. Because honesty meant I had to stop managing on my own. It meant I had to be needy. I didn't want to be that. Men are not taught to be needy on any level.
Vulnerable too.
Be vulnerable, to say what's really true and what's really happening. I had to deal with, so a lot came up. So I'd imagine I'm sitting here right now with us, obviously, but there's also men watching like, dude, like maybe I was the perpetrator. Maybe I was the one who did things wrong. I don't know what to do with that. And you're taking us to this moment where you're crying out to God at the end of yourself saying, please show up. Can you take us from there to today of what have you learned? What are the truths that have guided you? What are the things that have come up as the new stories, the new truths, the new version of you? And teach us what you've learned along the way, obviously working with hundreds of people too, and helping them heal, because you had to go to some dark places so you could bring people into their own light.
Yeah.
So help us do that, especially for the man who's listening, who's like, dude, I don't want to go to those dark places. I'm scared to go there.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
And it's why it's so courageous when anyone, man, woman, says, I'm going to do the work.
Yes.
I have enough courage to sit and look at myself in a mirror and own my stuff, but also be really honest. But here's the thing about being honest. Sometimes we really don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just numb.
Yes.
Men, sometimes your wives are numb and they're detached or they're armored up and they don't know. Yeah. And so I hear men say, well, I had a great childhood, or I had, nothing's wrong with me, all is well. Like, it's them, it's that. So you got to get honest. Got to get really honest.
Is there something practical
and you
there?
Need help.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there something practical there for a man to go like, okay, be honest? Is that just saying it?
The honesty is, if you're even asking yourself that question or you're having this conversation, something's up. There is something wrong. Yeah. There is a disconnect somewhere. Yeah. If you're not getting along with your wife or your child doesn't want to spend time, whatever it could be, whatever the pain point in your life is, there's a pain point. And it might be that you're just an unhappy husband who your wife nags you all the time and tries to micromanage you and control you. Yeah. And I don't know what the problem is. It's you, not me.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect that you got to get honest about.
Yeah.
That.
So we have these filters or distortions. You talked about, I know you've said it before, wounds distort your discernment. And that's what you're talking about. Is like, you got to be willing to sit with that, with yourself and with God and with the Holy Spirit, and maybe with some men. Hopefully our men have some men in their life that they really trust and can show up with. What does it look like though, to take that next step after that of like, okay, I'm being honest. Where do I go from here?
Teachable heart. I wanted to add, you got to have a teachable heart.
I love that. I talk about that a lot with my kids.
Because if you don't, you're not open to learning something new. You're not open to empathy, to seeing oh, here's how I've contributed to someone else's pain.
Yeah.
Again, my wife's not happy, or my kids aren't happy, or my girlfriend's not happy, or I'm not getting along with my parents, or my brother or my sibling and I are on the outs. I don't know why I just said brother. Me and my brother are fine, by the way. But
just for clarity.
It was not a Freudian slip.
Yeah.
And and so I think the getting honest with it is find one person. If you could just find one person to tell the truth to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone that you can get help from.
Yeah. I love that. That's where it begins.
Everybody knows one person.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And if it's not, if it's not me because I'm too close to you, or I know your mom, or I know your dad, and ask me to help you find someone, and I know you guys do that.
Yeah.
Listen to the podcast. We have so many resources available to us now.
Yeah.
But the men that I have seen, I have a client, and I'm not going to say her name, obviously, but I walked with her through a really hard time, and she was separated from her husband, had filed for divorce, and they're happily married today. I just would like to say, but here's what happened. She did her work, her own trauma work, her own stories, the negative beliefs of self, EMDR. I love EMDR. Her husband, who she was separated from, got into a men's group.
Wow.
He had a therapist, a good therapist.
Yeah, that's key.
That is key.
It's even more key is they both did it.
They both did it.
That's just rare.
Huge. It's rare.
And most of the time it's the dudes.
Well, I'm going to say that she was on her way out.
Yeah.
She did not want the marriage to work.
Yeah.
But he was doing all of the work. And I was like, don't worry about him. Don't worry about him.
Yeah,
Let's just do your work. We don't have to make any big decisions today. Let's just do your work. Alongside him, spiritual mentor, men's group for accountability, therapy. And she's like, I think I'm noticing some changes. And I'm like, just trust, look for consistency. Just don't think anything. Just watch, just observe. Let's do your work. By the end of it, she clearly heard the Lord say, you are going back to your husband. And she obeyed. That's rare too.
Wow.
You know, like they were both committed to doing everything they could do to make this thing work. And it's like, man, coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? So like that wasn't my story.
Yeah.
And I'm not living in the past or the shame of that at all. But man, I would love to have had people in my life like that, that she had in her life and he had in his life.
Yeah.
And so I also want to say to husbands, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but I feel like this is important because I was just like interviewing her. She's going to come on my podcast one day and talking about like, you're happily married now? Like you guys were heading for divorce and now you're happily married. Like what is it? And what's the secret sauce for you? And she said this, and I have an article I can send if you want to link it.
That's good.
There's an article going around written by a man to men of men, you want a good marriage, outserve and outgive your wife.
Yeah.
And it's, again, there's some vulnerability in that. There's someone who's also gotten real honest with himself. So that's not for everyone to hear if you're not even in the I'm honest with myself and I need help. But something's not working for me in my life right now. Find one person.
One person.
Yeah.
Find one person
Yeah.
to just be honest with. And I think, you know, with stand-up dudes and this, Jesus is an important component of this.
Heck yeah.
But I also think that we can over-spiritualize things too.
Totally.
And it sometimes we just need to get honest. We don't pray for God to heal our broken bone. We go to a bone doctor to set it.
Yeah.
There are professionals out there
Yep.
to help. Because if you're just thinking you're going to, I'm going to try this new thing, I'm going to change this behavior, I'm going to do the dishes tonight for my wife,
Right.
but you're not doing this inside job, I'm going to use this analogy because I know you like to deer hunt.
Oh, yeah.
And I grew up in tree stands with my daddy.
Oh, cool.
So,
that's pretty neat.
if you're doing it like that and you're just trying to do this like surfacey behavior change and not the inner work, you're taking a fishing pole deer hunting and thinking you're going to catch a deer. With fishing, you're using the wrong tools. You got to get the right thing, whether you're bow hunting or, you know, rifle, whatever. It's, you don't have all the tools and that's okay. I didn't have all the right tools and I'm sitting here today helping people. You didn't have all the right tools for different things in your story and in your story until you did.
Yeah. So you said a couple things. One of them was you said it softly, but you said it's important to own, you said. And then you said, and to be honest. And I couldn't help but wonder, is it possible do you have to be honest before you can own it? Or can you own it before you get honest? I don't want to get too cerebral here, but when you also said something else that's connected to that in this story for it was a huge part of my life that is confirming all the things that you said. There was this one person in my life when I was 10 years old who said to me, if there's something that you can't tell somebody else, you can tell me. And at 27, very interesting age, by the way, a lot of things happen for people around 27. A lot of suicide at 27, the Holy Spirit reminded me when I was crying, weeping, sweating, snotting, drooling, and crying on the floor in Dallas, and asked God to help me one more time, please. I was a drug addict, and it had been that way for 7 years, and I called him, and he helped, and he came. So he made a commitment to me at 10 years old. So he would listen. He flew in from Los Angeles to Dallas. That day we met for 8 hours at Bennigan's, and he kept a commitment, and now that is paying off for me to be able to even sit here today with you and tell that story. I also was sent the next day to a counselor. His name was Dr. Moody. Really funny for a psychologist to name Dr. Moody. And he said, "How you doing?" First thing I said, "Not very well." And he said, "How long do you think you've not been doing very well?" And I said, 7 or 8 years. And he goes, "And do you think it's a problem?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "Well, if you think you've had a problem for 7 or 8 years, it's a problem." So that was that honest part for me.
Yeah.
So it kind of, I bring that back into the circle of, I was honest, and I hadn't owned it yet. And the ownership part of me, I've been sober for 36 years now, and I'm still owning the pieces that took me there. Wow. But I just wanted to I'm actually just confirming all the things that we all have different stories. I know Pedro, he could have a 4-hour podcast, and I'd listen to every word, because it's incredible what the Lord's brought him through and things, as well as you. I don't know, we're just kind of hitting on the surface of it all, but it's a beautiful a story to be able to hear from a woman helping these men out there that want to stay married. Maybe their wife doesn't, or they don't and their wife does, but they know they want to do the right thing. What do I do to get there? And so thank you for sharing these things that are helping me already understand my story and how God's made a way.
Yeah. Can I add to that?
I'm done. Yeah.
The honesty has to come first.
Does it?
I believe, in my opinion, because sometimes even the honesty is, life's not working for me.
Yeah.
This isn't working for me. Or I'm in pain. Or my family is in shambles. I'm about to blow up my family. Maybe the honest is like, my wife isn't happy. And so I say this to the men because this is for the men, but this is highly applicable for women too. If you can get honest, there's room there for empathy. There's room there for vulnerability. And I think women really want to see that in their men. I think it softens women. Yeah. When they see their husbands aren't superhero. They don't have to be a superhero and tough. They can actually be like, oh my gosh, I'm hurting. Something's not right. I don't know what it is. Let's figure this out. Like, even in that, there can be a softening in her. And that fights off against the disaffection that will ensue.
Yeah, you know what? I was just reminded in AA they teach, and I've been to hundreds of meetings, and it saved my life for real. I loved them. I still go occasionally because it's just one of the most honest places I can be. And they say, admitting that you have a problem is basically the first step. It is the first step. So that's the honest piece. And then I think that you're owning it in step 2, 3, 4, 5 through 12, basically. So
if you can't even be honest about where you are, how are you going to have an openness to hear correction or even hear like a therapist? You aren't even willing to join therapeutically with a helping professional or a coach. Because it's not me, I'm fine. It's everybody else. And
I love that you said about when men don't have to be superheroes and they get honest, that their women soften. That's one of the words that I'm a part of a men's group, and 80% of the guys in there, their marriages are a you-know-what show. It's bad. It's not great at all. And I do have a wonderful marriage. I'm trying to make it even better, and so is she, which is really awesome. Just they use the word soften a lot when they're referring to a woman's heart. And so I just love that it's as simple as, the honesty, that it will soften a woman's heart, because I can see that. I can see that happening. Yeah. I see that. I can see very practically how that happens. And it's not just once, it's continually to stay honest.
What have you learned about grace in all of this? Like, just in your own journey, the power of grace in your own story?
I have learned, and I've said this often, grace begets grace. And I have so much compassion for men and women who offer zero grace. And I'm sure that we can all think of people, critical spirit. People that I encounter sometimes on a daily that are harsh and critical. I used to be that way.
So when you meet those people, you automatically have this sense of grace come over you?
I have a sense of compassion for them because
that was you.
Well, that was me, but also in a critical spirit and someone who doesn't offer grace, my heart goes to, oh my gosh, they've never received grace.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've never
100%.
experienced grace themselves, because at least in my experience, again, this isn't clinical. The grace that has been extended to me makes me want to give it out. So that's what I mean when I say grace begets grace. When I've received God's grace, God's redemption, and other people's non-judgment or grace over me, I'm like, oh, the more I get, the more I want to give.
Yeah.
And so when I do encounter someone where there is no grace, it's judgment. I mean, I know I'm making a mean face even when I say it. It's judgment, it's critical spirit, it's a harshness.
Yeah.
It's hurt. It is hurt. So my compassionate heart goes to, oh my gosh, that poor soul has never really experienced grace or mercy because they don't know how to give it. Grace begets grace.
Yeah.
So that's
How do you help a person that just never does, that kind of admires the idea of grace, or possibly they see grace as a weakness, but they know that it's the right thing to do? What would you say to a man that, what does grace look like when he offers it to somebody where everything inside him basically is saying no to offering that?
What do you think?
I think
I was hoping you had something good there.
I think there's men out there. I know those people. I know a lot of them.
Yeah.
They want to be gracious. They want to be understanding.
Yeah.
They want to listen. They want to be present. They just don't know how.
I have an answer to that. And I think that I think about Jesus and his disciples, and I think about everyone that he encountered. And again, we read the Bible and we see these stories, and we've got things now that bring those stories to life. Like if you've ever watched The Chosen, a little shameless plug there, but it's like he was a magnet.
Yeah.
People wanted to be around him. Yeah. Have you ever? I have a few people in my life I could name on here. They'd probably be embarrassed if I said their name, but like who I just want to be around all of the time. Because they exude it. They exude grace. They exude love. They exude compassion. And it's not even that they're attractive necessarily physically, as much as it's like, I got to have more of that in my life. Yeah. And so I think that we model it for others. I think that is how we teach other men or other women how to have that, is we be that. And we exude it in our own life. And in our way, we're mentoring others in that. They want more of that.
What does grace look like for the guy that wants to do what you're talking about, but he has no idea how to? What does that look like for him to offer grace?
Okay, well, I can tell you how that would present to me. I don't know how to tell that man necessarily how to get there.
We're asking, what does it look like?
But I would say it's someone who feels inconvenienced at a restaurant. Their order was wrong, or they didn't get the right drink delivered, something like that, where there's an inconvenience, or the doctor's appointment was running late, or any area where there's an inconvenience. They're like, it's okay. There's like,
in the simplest of things.
In the simplest of situations, knowing that we're all human, and people make errors and people make mistakes, and
it's loving. It's a loving answer to say it's okay.
It's okay. And that's it.
And
it's
I think that
okay.
looks
It's not a sigh. It's not a, unfortunately or fortunately, I've, as a single woman, I've been on dates, and I mean, a big old like ixnay on the 8 day is is when I'm with someone and I watch how he talks to
waiters,
anyone, staff, the parking attendant.
Right. Yeah.
And like that is like a big old litmus test for me of a relationship with himself.
Yeah.
And with others.
I think about the call I was listening, I'm processing and asking myself this question. I think about the call as a husband. In the Bible, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. He gave himself for her, he willing to lay down his life. And as man, I think, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I think we hear performance in that.
You know about performance.
I gotta and I was just sitting here, maybe for the first time in my life, listening to you talk about just the gentleness of a soft heart, of a gentle heart, thinking, the implication of the verse is that I have experienced how Christ has loved me. Husbands, love your wife as Christ has loved the church. Have I been willing to receive Christ's love down in not in just my personality, not in my, I quote scripture, but in my wounds? Because that's the place we source our energy. Like that's the place we source life. That's the place. So if we're not healed on those deep places of our life, we don't have that kind of love. And the deeper, so I just want to encourage any man who's listening, like the deeper you allow God to go in your own heart, in those places in your heart that are hurting, that are shameful, that you feel guilt, you feel fear, you feel hurt, whatever it might be, the deeper the healing, the more God can actually come out of your life, can flow out of your life. The more we can love our wives. Yeah. And it's natural. It's not forced. It's not, okay, I got to love her. Okay, I got to be patient. I told her 7:30 and it's 9:15 and here we are just still waiting. We're going to the late service now or whatever.
There's a phrase, I'm going to tag onto that I learned in this encounter training group that I went through in 2012. That was a big pivot moment in my life to put me back on the right path. And it's, what experience are you committed to cause? And so I have clients who will tell me, well, what do I do? What do I do? How do I, and my question always goes back to, well, what experience do you want to cause?
I love that.
If you can filter everything, I'm looking at the men.
There you go.
If you can filter everything that you want to do or everything that you want to say by first pausing, you practice that pause and saying, hey, what experience do I really want to cause my wife right now? Okay, with this comment or with this action or with this passive aggressive, or would that actually accomplish that? Or would it not? And then you set your intention from that, and then you take action from that. I love that. And so I'm talking to men right now, but parenting. When you're dealing with your kids, whether they are like, I have adult kids, I think you do too. It's like anytime I think about, I need to have this conversation with Tripp, or I need to have this conversation with Lily or whatever, I'm like, hold on. Don't let my emotions get away from me. What experience do I want to cause?
That's really good.
As a woman of faith, I personally want to cause an experience of love, of grace, of mercy, of joy. Okay, is this right here that I'm thinking I want to do going to create that experience? Or is it going to create a different experience? It always pulls me back into,
what's my intention?
What's my intention and how do I make that happen? And again, that was introduced to me in 2012, really and it just was one of the most impactful, powerful phrases for me. And men, the other thing I want to say is that culturally men are big time doers.
Totally.
And women too. Like, but I think that they feel like they have to do. Yeah. So then they will like have whatever it is they want to have, and then they will be happy, and then they will have
one day I'll be
peace.
There. Yeah.
And so it's so wrong. We have got it so screwed up. It's really about learning how to be. So in that be of like being honest, being still.
I love that.
Being with self, being with other men. Yep. From that place of being. Yeah. Then there's going to be, I'm going to do and act accordingly from that heart space. Yeah. And then I'm going to have everything I want. What do I want? I want a happy family. I want connection. Everybody's created for connection. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be known. And that's the general theory of love. How do we create that experience?
Yes.
I heard something just about a week ago that we lie sometimes as husbands, or we lie sometimes as friends, because we want to continue connection. So we lie in order to keep our connection with them. Out of fear that we will lose connection, we lie, in other words. And
distortion.
So
there's a distortion in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying it's right,
but it's true.
It's true. While I'm trying to say is the craziest distortion exactly is that that's the very thing that causes disconnection and causes walls when we lie. Yet there's something that happens with us within our minds that if I lie, if I tell her that I picked up the groceries when I didn't, then she's going to still love me, we'll keep our connection. In fact, that it was a lie, and so now I've got to cover up the lie, and there's a thing between us now. It's very interesting. I'd never thought about lying to a friend or to a wife or anybody in order to continue the connection.
Well, so because the fear underneath that is I'm going to get left, I'm going to be rejected, or not loved, whatever the wound is, whatever that unhealed hurt is. So we go back to, if we can go back to the family of origin work of actually processing, and listen, processing a trauma, it doesn't always mean you have to get in with a therapist.
That's right.
It can be a coach. It can be a friend. It can be a pastor. It's just telling the truth about it. I go back to John Townsend's, my favorite statement he made when I went to that intensive. I'm getting so excited. I went to that intensive was he said, if you name it, you can tame it.
Yeah.
And my clients hear me say that now all the time. And I say it to my friends. Hey, I'm having a really bad day. I'm really hurting today over XYZ. And I know that if I can just name that with you, I'm already taming it. I'm 100%. Telling the truth about the thing.
100%. That's where freedom is.
Yes. And then they get the opportunity. I'm being vulnerable. I'm giving them the opportunity to reject me.
Yeah.
They might, but you know what? There's the chance I'm willing to take, and they don't.
Yep.
And so men, don't be scared. I mean, you're going to be scared because fear is real.
Right.
But can you run into that roar? Run into the roar. The reward of that is, I hope somebody is listening to this.
Yeah.
And they're going to give feedback later and be like, oh my gosh, I ran into the roar and this thing happened. And, the other thing is you're never too far gone.
Yeah.
You're never, I was talking to your wife yesterday about some things. And I said, we're never too far gone to be used or be able to help or change or pivot in our life. And we were talking about that, and I was like, there was a word that was spoken over me, and words are so powerful. Women, what you speak over your husbands matter. Okay, what you speak over your children matters. We become what is spoken over us.
That's really good.
Lily and Trip used to tattle on each other because I made a game about them speaking life over each other.
I love that.
Like, okay, you're going to tattle, but only if you see your brother doing something good.
Oh, that's
We're
cool.
going to speak life over each other. And so, but we become what we speak over our husband. If I speak over you good, you're going to want to be good. The reality of that is, but we were talking yesterday about this word that was spoken over me. Oh gosh, I was just finishing up grad school, and I went back to grad school later in life, many years after my divorce, for counseling. And this person said to me, because of your sin, you're on this list with all the Christian community. And on that list, you're on a blacklist, and you're never going to be able to be used to help other people. And I believed it for a while. Like that was that, like, even as I speak it, I feel that in my chest right now. Right. Like that's that shame that wants to come, and shame lives right here in me of like, no one's going to want to be used by you. Look at all these things you did. You did this. You had an affair. You tried to take your life. And your wife and I were talking about that yesterday. I was like, no, like God used Rahab.
Yep.
Like Jesus is from Rahab and David's line. David was a man after God's own heart, and he did terrible things.
Yeah.
Solomon, Moses, Paul wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, and he killed Christians. Like he takes these broken people all through history, and they are the ones that are used.
Yeah.
So it's not too late for you guys out there.
It's not. Look what you're doing, and you walked into this as divorced, and now you're helping others with divorces.
Yep.
I'm helping others stay married.
There you go.
I am such
Love
an
it.
advocate for marriage.
Even better. My point.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I think just to kind of wrap us up here, you've given us a new picture, I think, of what spiritual and emotional maturity looks like. Like you've given us a new picture of maybe a lot of the men listening grew up like I did, where spiritual and emotional maturity was suppressing my heart, only talking about God's heart, suppress mine. None of my feelings matter. No one wants to hear any of that. Act stoic for the most part, sort of just keep pushing along. And I was a very emotional kid who didn't know how to emote all the things I was feeling, so it just became trapped trauma in my body, and it was stored, and it would sort of fly up out of nowhere when something happened, and I didn't know what it was, and I felt scared, and I felt lost. And I would imagine a lot of men listening are going like, wait a minute, maybe emotional maturity isn't avoidance, but it's actually honesty, and it's being vulnerable with myself, because it's vulnerable just to be vulnerable with yourself. That's a vulnerability to go, oh my gosh, yeah, that did happen. Oh my gosh, that didn't happen for me, and I wish it did. That's sad, and that's a lonely place to be. But we do that not just to sit in our trauma and our wounds, right, but to actually invite the person that is the Holy Spirit, maybe somebody we trust, maybe a therapist or a counselor. And it took me, thankfully, I didn't have to go searching for a whole bunch of counselors. I found one. God brought me sovereignly to someone that changed my life and helped me be with my heart. And all I wanted to do the whole time he was trying to get into my heart was talk about spiritual stuff, because that's how I bypassed. That's how I got away from talking about what was really going on. And I just think you're giving us permission to see spiritual formation, healthy, like inner world, as like being honest with God. You think about that saying, you just said it. David was a man after God's own heart. And maybe because David was willing to give God his heart, God took that and was like, oh, dude, I got your heart, buddy. And now here's my heart. And here you go rule and reign my kingdom on the earth. And he changed generations because of his willingness to bring his ugly to God, not his pretty.
Yeah.
And I think you're a living example of someone who's guiding other people to go, it's okay to bring the ugly, because it's not always going to look like this. Once God touches it, once you see what he sees about who you are, you'll no longer partner with these lies. You'll no longer live in this same story. And it gives me hope just listening for those parts of me that are still growing and still learning. And I sat with, just be vulnerable for a minute. I sat with a group of men today on a call for a full hour and 8 minutes. We sat on a video call, a guy in California and a guy in Nashville and a guy in Ohio. And we got vulnerable, we got real, and we cried, and it wasn't cute. I was in the Publix parking lot sitting in my car, and it was yucky. And I got off, and I was like, that was me. That was me being with other men, witnessing my heart with the Holy Spirit. And there was healing in that. Yeah. And I left that parking lot a very different man than when I showed up. And I'm thankful for that. And I also think for men listening, we don't have enough models in culture, giving us permission to go like, you can move towards your heart with God. There's healing on the other s上, and you're modeling it. And I just want to tell you, it's bold. It's courageous. You're sharing your story with us, letting us into those parts of your story that's scary and vulnerable to do that with thousands of people on the internet. And I think there's going to be maybe thousands, maybe millions one day who see this and go, oh my gosh, I have permission. I have permission to go there because God's there. God's not scared of it. Yeah. And God was there when these things happened, and he can rewrite those stories. So thank you for being bold. I needed it. I needed the reminder today.
Me too.
To stay
Me
bold.
too. I got real practical with seeing myself standing in the kitchen with my wife, talking and how to respond and offering the grace. What we talked about was grace was really wonderful.
What experience are you committed to
I
cause?
love that. I was literally going to say I'm walking with that.
Yeah.
Like in my home and my family, what experience am I committed to causing everywhere I go? I wish I would have thought of that before I came in here. Might have been a different experience for you guys.
Listen, it changed my life. The experience that I had to go through to sow that into my heart changed my life.
Yeah.
So great.
I filter, and again, I'm not perfect and I make mistakes, but I am quick to own them and ask for forgiveness when I need to. But I filter everything I do and say, especially in conflict.
That's really good.
Through that, okay, what's the experience I want to cause here?
Yeah.
So that was I also did encounter, and my wife's done encounter. Stu's, all kind of people I know have done them. And I had to ask Derek 5 or 6 times, what does that mean? And I still don't know if I know exactly what it means, but I'm so glad that it.
Do you have a better insight of it now?
Yeah, I do. I would have explained it completely different than you, and that's okay.
That's good.
But that's where that's how I process. It's not it's normal for me. So I want, if you don't mind, I want to close with the men who are listening right now and realizing I've got pain. I've never really dealt with it, and so what do you say to him who doesn't spiral into shame, but actually steps into the light? How can that be his cause that he's committed to experiencing?
So what I'm saying to the men who are like, oh, I need help.
Yeah,
is that what I'm hearing you say?
Got it.
Come on.
I want to make sure I'm understanding you.
Yeah. So. Instead of spiraling into shame with some of the things they've heard of what a man could look like or could be, as you've wonderfully said, help them step into this light of understanding, because I can't help but think it's light. It's not heavy. It's not a heavy burden for a man that wants to be present for his wife. He wants to speak the truth. He wants to offer grace. He wants to exude love, like when you said when he's offering grace to people in the parking lots. I just thought, I think what she's seeing is love.
I want to say you already are those things.
That's good.
Okay.
So I
love that.
You already are all of those things because the great I am is already in you.
That's good.
So you are love. You are peace. You are joy.
Strive.
You don't have a spirit of fear. You have a spirit of love, of power, of sound mind.
That's good.
And so it is, you've got to begin to start telling yourself that story first and foremost. Like, what do I do to be this? You already are. It's just, let's access it. And so I think there's some freedom and being able to go, oh, I am love, I am power. And again, this is one of those ways I broke free, was I started to tell myself the reality
story
you experience is in the stories you tell yourself. Derek Watson.
I love that.
And so if you want a different reality, you got to tell yourself a different story. So I am love. I am power. I am sound mind. I am grace. I am strong. I am, a provider. I am a protector. I am gentle. Whatever those things are, you start telling yourself those things. And for me, what I did is I found verses in the Bible.
Yeah.
And I'm old school.
That's good.
We're old school here.
Yeah, you underline it.
I wrote them on note cards.
There you go.
And I sat, instead of stopping at a stoplight and looking at Instagram, I pull out my note cards.
That's good.
Thank you, Lord. I am love. I am power. I'm sound mind. I just started telling myself a different story.
Yeah, that's really
and that's
good
simple
answer.
And that's practical. And then you go to the next step and you're like, maybe I need someone to be vulnerable with.
Yeah.
And it's in stages. It doesn't happen overnight. Do not get discouraged. You have a great day and then you slip up. You know what? I'm sorry. I was wrong. is really, really powerful.
That's so good.
And then you get a second chance.
Yeah.
So
and a second chance on top of that, and another one.
Right.
So that is what grace. We all need it. Where can guys, their girlfriends, their wives find more of your work? What's the easiest one locale? I know you got Substack and awesome social media and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But where can they go?
Best place is my website because it filters to my email. It's easy, ShelliNorvell.com.
I love it.
Shelley with an I, Norvell, ELL.com.
I love it.
Love
go
to
check
hear
it out.
from you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, let's go ahead and put the we've mentioned this encounter training. We love Derek. Let's throw that. Let's put that in there, guys.
TheEncounterTraining.com.
Super. There you go. Super powerful.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. What about your book?
Hey.
Oh goodness. So I have, I am in the process now of the publishing and finding the right publisher to fit me. I've written a psychological thriller. It's one of 3.
Oh my.
It's going to be really fun and good. It's about a therapist who goes after clients. And so it's dark and twisty and fun.
Yeah.
But the nonfiction or it's the biography of all the nitty gritty nooks and crannies of my story. It's called Throwing Stones. In the process of reworking and reframing, it's already been written with an editor and getting that. I'll probably self-publish that, and hopefully that'll be out by summer. So
super.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, guys, if this episode has inspired you, if you've been challenged, if you're ruminating around it, send it to as many of your friends as possible. Let them know, hey, this is stirring in me. Let's talk about it. This podcast can serve as a great tool for you to start the conversation with somebody you trust and go, man, how did this hit you? And what do you feel around it? And our goal isn't that you agree with all of it. Our goal is that it's a first step for you to go into your heart, into that journey with Jesus. And so we want to thank Shelley for being on with us today.
Thank you, Shelley.
Her voice has been so encouraging for us today. And I just want to remind you that, man, bring it out into the light. Whatever it is, bring it out into the light. Maybe it feels massive and scary. Maybe it feels like minute and like not a big deal. God cares about all of it, and he loves you enough to meet you in all of it. And so share this, and we want you to know we're thankful for you sharing your time with us on the Stand Up Dude podcast. And we'll see you on the next one.